Okay, Dr. Gatt, so you've come to London and you're hosting a series of events with the National Outsourcing Association, the Financial Times. What's the main driver? What's your purpose of visiting London?
Basically, Malta is establishing itself as a nearshoring location, especially for ICT operations. So we're pushing the island as a good alternative to a number of nearshoring competitors that there are both in Europe and outside Europe. And I think London, obviously, being one of the main centres where you get companies who are nearshoring and offshoring, is an obvious market segment we have to attack.
In the entire sort of offshoring market, most marketplaces or nations quite often try to position themselves as lower cost. And Malta being in the European Union, it's much harder to make that claim. So what are the real advantages of working with Malta?
We don't simply base ourselves on lower costs. We do have lower costs than most European destinations, but definitely we are not as low cost as India could be in certain cases. I think what we do better is that we add value to the proposition. So the main driver of what we want to do is, first of all, proximity, because offshore places, the India type, involve a lot of traveling time. Two, we're also a niche market, so we don't go for big operations. You have to come to Malta if you need quality, if you want proximity to your principal markets, and if you want to add value to your product. So low cost is part of the exercise, but it's not necessarily the only driver.
Okay, I know that you have some companies such as Betfair doing very complex sort of online gambling that do their operations in Malta. And you also have companies on the service side of IT, like Crimson Wing, for example. So where do you see the ICT market developing? Will it be more companies coming to base operations in Malta, or building more sort of service companies?
I think it will be more service companies, especially if you factor what's happening with cloud computing and the move, obviously, there for service orientation. I think the more time passes, the more, at least what we see for the next 5 years, because going beyond 5 years is rather difficult in ICT. So we're looking at more service companies coming to Malta. We have, apart from Betfair, we have another 360 e-gaming companies. And that is developing in a pure services-related market. We're also seeing now a new move with companies coming to Malta who are developing service-oriented technologies relating to hardware and not only to software. There is a concept of having a service shop in Malta and using Malta as a base to service electronically a number of hardware solutions which are also present in North Africa, and especially on oil rig platforms which are present in North Africa. So we're seeing this development, but I think ultimately it will all tie in with servicing.
Okay, and then finally, being quite a small geography, or geographic size is fairly small, that must give you some advantage in being able to upgrade the infrastructure. So do you have any major programs of infrastructure improvement?
Yeah, first of all, we're putting in what is called the smart grid for utilities. So we're changing our metering system for both water and electricity into a smart grid, so which can exchange data over the electricity lines that we use. We'll actually be the first nation to have it on a nationwide basis in the EU. And apart from that, Malta invests quite a bit in its connections. Being an island, air connections and sea connections are extremely important. So the infrastructure connected with that needs to be revamped all the time. So we spend a lot of money on that kind of infrastructure. We're putting in also a new electricity grid to tie us up with the European grid, which will enable us to have power redundancy as well. And we invest a lot, obviously, in IT connections, submarine cables to give us connectivity to Europe. We have 4, we're going up to 5. A couple of years will be 6 as well. So there's a lot of investment on that.